Well, hello everybody. I'm in New Jersey, an hour out of New York, at least to the ferry to take me out to the Statue of Liberty. A little bit tired. It's a rough drive through here, that's for sure. Got turned around a couple times on the interstate with joining of municipalities. A little bit of a tough drive, but got her done. I'm going to try to park there. People told me not to, but I don't know. I didn't plan my trip, didn't book anything. No shortage of hotels, and everything's worked out just fine. So I'm going to continue and drive on through and go see the Statue of Liberty, shoot another live. But what's interesting is there's a David Geeson, and who is he? Well, he took a book from 1879. It's called Progress and Poverty. It was a huge hit bestseller of the time, and a lot of what's come about in the United States from the left goes into that now, from the Democrats and that radical socialism, some of these global agendas. And the theory behind that book is that we should share everything like a community, and there's a problem with that. It doesn't matter if it was the United States or Canada in its constitutional monarchy, or the Federation of Russia, or communist China. Here's the problem that nobody ever addressed. Not that day, not the Jewish community that goes into that in Judaism, as David does. And he's not Jewish, but he sure gets that community in New York and absolutely in San Francisco. In fact, his school is named after the author of that literary works. And I have two issues with that literary works, as I've read much on socialism, much in theology. I've read and studied every religion mainstream. And my problem is simply this: that publication highlights all the problems of that day that are exactly the same problems we have today. But the solution, that they say economically in socialism, meaning we share everything evenly, there's two problems that no one ever addresses with socialism, yet every socialism falls flat on its face every time. And that is, one, forced labor. Who does the shit work? If we're all equal, somebody has to be forced to do the shit work. And when I say that, I mean literally shit work. Who's going to crawl through the sewers getting the paid the same amount as the guy who holds doors for a living, or is the Walmart greeter? Who's going to be motivated to become a surgeon? Who's going to be motivated to go out and mine far, far away from home? Because in this land sharing, somebody's going to have to be uprooted from their families. Someone's going to have to go far, far away and do that work that nobody wants to do. Nobody graduates school and says, "Oh boy, I can't wait to pick up garbage in the gutters. Oh boy, I can't wait to help diseased individuals as much as I can." Nobody wakes up or wants to do that. It's called paid labor. Paid labor. Some things, because of the cost to the person, personable or whatever, requires paid labor. So you cannot have inequality all around the board. You just can't. The second issue that no one ever talks about is individual accountability. Let's just look at that and what I'm talking about here. So let's take your employer, employees, and could be shareholders or the primary investors in a corporation, or the money backing people. Now, when we talk about individual accountability, what happens when somebody who's into a business, has tons of employees, starts to do drugs, goes out on gambling sprees, where's the accountability? Wastes the whole business, destroys everything, can't pay any of the employees. Where's the accountability? Well, all governments generally globally say no problem, you go bankrupt and you hand those issues off to the public trust. It's a debt incurred and shared by everybody in the system. Zero accountability. In fact, often you can do that 3 times in your life. You can be that screw up 3 times in your life. Now, what about the employees who's got a family, all that, gets into the drugs or gambling, ruins their family? Where's the accountability? Doesn't show up for work multiple times. Can't put in the effort, can't do this, can't do that. Becomes a liability to the company. Maybe damages equipment, maybe does harm to the company, goes through insurance, and where does that go? On to the public trust. Government says no worries. It goes on for everybody to share in that problem. What about the shareholder who's got the investment going with this? What about when they all of a sudden move on to another country and abandon what they set up and they've implemented, or they go on a major irrational spending spree and ruin the company that was entrusted under contract? What happens? Everybody go bankrupt. Don't worry, it goes on the public trust. The public pays. Everybody shares it. Communal. Problem is, those debts and deficits grow. These are the issues that not one person who champions socialism on any scale or perfect equality ever highlights, right? Because what about the good model employee who works harder than all the rest, produces more than all the rest, carrying others? Where's their reward in the equal system? We're all equal? That's not equal. It's the accountability. Same with the business. What about a failing business versus a good business? What about that? Why do we have to subsidize that? Well, that's their hopes and dreams. Just keep funding with the public trust. Keep it alive. Hopes that one day it'll turn around. Happens all the time. Happens in every country all the time. Who you know, they transfer the public trust to somebody who is failing. We don't want to lose those jobs. Well, if it's a failing business model, why do you subsidize a failing business model? This is the issue socialism never addresses. Never addresses. And when people say, oh, well, this country isn't socialist, no, it's pretty much free market, the reality is it isn't, because there's always a public trust. Nobody ever addresses that. No one highlights those two critical issues. Unions came around. People talk about unions of the past. They would strike to get that fairness, to try to have a check and balance. But the reality is, it continues on and on to this day. It never works out equitably, not equal for everybody. People are forced into contracts, forced labor. Often the government will back up the business. They'll create conditions to have everybody competing against each other, even forcing excessive labor. You'll hear about foreign workers. We need more workers. We can't get people to do the jobs because the pay is too low. These issues, folks, have been around from the age of civilizations. It's always been an issue, and it's always been met with forced labor or absolutely unaccountability. That's how it's met. Those are two factors that never work out. I have yet to see any socialist come forward and explain a logical path forward. They always have this utopia of a great equal society, but yet we all know not all things are equal. And I'm not saying people with handicaps or people with mental inefficiencies or even mental health or physical health ailments shouldn't be taken care of in a society, and we should have checks and balances for that in real social programs. I think everyone can agree that that's a good thing. But what about the individual accountability at all levels? When do we place that in? I know it can be done through constitutionalism. I know it can be done through laws, but yet it's never done. It's always the few taking from the many, every time, every model, generally. And socialists always gravitate to this idea that we're all going to be equal and we can all share equally, in the absence of any kind of system of checks and balances for individual accountability. More than that, they have no answer for the idea of labor. Who does the shit work? Well, it's going to have to be forced labor, because if you don't have paid labor, you're not going to get people to do that work. If you don't believe me, communism and monarchies and complete civil law socialist tyrannical governments now and in the entire history of the past have existed that way forever and a day. And nobody ever comes up with an answer to those two core issues. It's always a Star Trek fantasy, and nobody ever highlights it. We'll see what happens today. I want to shoot my video. I want to see and be at the feet of the Statue of Liberty, the bottom of the pedestal. I'll wait in line. I'll go up to the head. You can't go to the torch, but you can go up to the head. You can pay extra. I'm going to do that. I want to shoot a live about the Statue of Liberty, what the crown means, what the torch means, and all its historical narrative, where people come up with radical ideas, what the book significance that's in the hands of Lady Liberty. We're going to go through that as it really is, and how America got that statue, how they paid for it, specifically the city of New York, why that was done and what it was in regards to. We're going to go through all of it as it really is. Canadians struggle with this. I've seen so much cockamamie shares on the Statue of Liberty that can only be a creation centered around the crown, another propaganda tool. Hate America, hate the idea of real, true freedom. And we're going to go through that today. At least I hope so, and I think it's all going to work out today. So I'm going to let everybody go. That's my video. I don't know if I'm going to stick around that late and debate him. I'm visiting America. If it was organized, maybe I would, but I don't know about surprising him and the Jewish community. I don't think that would be a good idea on all days. It's President's Day, and I'm just visiting the country. Had it been arranged, maybe, unless there's some kind of open Q&A or something, maybe, but to hang around the Statue of Liberty for 10 hours might be a little bit of a stretch for me. So, yeah, we'll see. Who knows? I guess I'll decide when I get there. See you all soon. We'll be at the Statue of Liberty, and New Jersey has little mountains. It's not like BC or Alberta, but, you know, they're pretty good anyway. Not too bad. Okay, everybody. Bye now.